Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Andrew's Life. On this video, I'm going to be driving through Camby, Indiana. Now, Camby, Indiana is some people might consider it a suburb. Other people might consider Camby to be a small community right outside of Indianapolis, which is directly south of Indianapolis, off of Route 67. I am now in Camby, Indiana. The population here in Camby is a little over 12,000 people. Now, me personally, I look at Camby. Camby, like I said, Camby to me is between a suburban community outside Indianapolis, or as some people may consider Camby. Camby is a community within Indianapolis. Now, according to Google, Camby, Indiana is in Marion County. But according to the traffic signs that mark the different counties that you're entering or you're exiting, Camby, Indiana is in Hendricks County. Now, I want to say Camby is a city of its own, because I want to say that Camby, I believe that Camby is in Hendricks County. That's what I believe. Now, Camby, Indiana, for the most part, for those of you that are into suburban living and you're wanting to live close to the metro, Camby, Indiana, for the most part, is a relatively, there's a lot of people that like living here in Camby. A lot of people consider this community a nice community to live. And if you compare Camby, Indiana to many other parts of the inner city, parts of Indianapolis, it is a nice community. Now, me personally, I've never been a fan of Camby. And the reason why I've never been a fan of Camby is because, to me, Camby, Indiana has always been a relatively crowded place to live. Now, off the top of my head, I do not know the population density. This is another video that I just kind of freestyled. But Camby, Indiana, for the most part, is a relatively busy community. So if you're looking for a nice, quiet, suburban place to live close to Indianapolis, I'm going to tell you right now, Camby is not going to be it. In fact, in more recent years, there's been at least a couple of armed robberies to businesses. And I would say no longer than 6 months ago, there was even a drive-by shooting. And the drive-by shooting, in fact, happened in this neighborhood. So, yeah, there's been a couple of armed robberies here in Camby, and there's been at least one drive-by shooting that I know of that happened here in Camby as well. Now, for those of you that are looking to move here and pay rents, there's been a significant amount of people that I know who live here in Camby that have complained about the deterioration of many of the apartment communities due to a lot of the apartment communities here that accepts some type of housing voucher. Now, I personally am not trying to shoot shots at people that need low-income housing. I mean, for people that are in need of low-income housing, you know, that's what the service is for. So let's get that straight right now. But unfortunately, there are certain people who might hold a voucher for low-income housing that move to some of these communities, and there are certain habits that they've always had that they bring to them to whatever community they live in. And some of those bad habits will bring down potentially decent communities, such as Camby, Indiana. So yeah, there's been a fair amount of people complaining about the quality of living in many of these apartment complexes due to many of these communities accepting some sort of housing voucher. But yeah, Camby, Indiana, you know, I mean, if you, like I said, it's a relatively busy place to live. Now, as I've told you guys on other videos, I do the majority of my videos over the weekend. So obviously this video is being done over the weekend, which is the reason why you don't see as much traffic in this area as you normally would. Because normally during the week, this area is going to have a lot more traffic. Much more traffic. And for those of you that are in the market to purchase a home, I mean, the lowest home prices that I've seen around here was $250,000. Now, as far as houses that are currently available, or at least are listed as still active on the MLS, the cheapest house I've seen was in the $300,000 range. So if you want to move here to Camby at this point, just to be on the safe side, plan to pay at least $300,000 for a house. Now, many parts of Camby are going to look pretty much like the neighborhood I'm driving through right now. Now, there are parts of Camby that are a little older, to where the houses have a little bit more character, and the yards are a little bigger, and the houses aren't so close in together. So the part of Camby I'm showing you guys right now is the newer part of Camby. Many of these houses, I would say, have been built within the last, I want to say, maybe 10 years, give or take. And as I've told you guys on several other videos that I make when I drive through these type of communities. Me personally, I would never live in a community like this because, for one, the houses are way too close in together, and a lot of times you don't get a whole lot of yards for your dollar. And in some of these communities, you gotta be careful because you will also be hit up with an association fee. Now, I don't know if this particular community has an association fee, but a lot of times when you move into these subdivisions, you're gonna have to pay some sort of an association fee. Now, I'm very strongly against associations. I think associations are a bunch of crooks, and they're good for nothing other than telling homeowners what they can and can't do on their own property, which I think is complete utter bullshit. Now, why anybody would want to live in a community that has an association is beyond me, but to each his own. And many of these houses aren't built half as well as a lot of the older houses that were built, let's say, during the 70s and earlier were built. Even if you buy a house that was built in the early 90s, you're still buying a pretty decent built home for the most part. But if you buy one of these houses that were built in the late 2000s and into the 2010s and on up to today, then, in my humble opinion, you're buying a pile of junk. Because these houses out here, I mean, not just here in Camby, but I'm speaking in general, these houses are not built, these newer houses are not built half as well as a lot of your older houses that were built 30 plus years ago were built. I mean, I've had a newer home before, back when I was living in southern Tennessee. I mean, this was back in the late 2000s, right before the housing market crashed of 08. I bought me a brand new house, and the house was complete utter garbage. I mean, the shingles started falling off the roof. The air conditioning system went out, and then come to find out, the air conditioning system, number one, it wasn't even built for a house, it was built for an apartment. And secondly, it was a refurbished unit, it wasn't even new. So that just goes to tell you the dishonesty and the low, that just goes to tell you some of the dishonesty, for lack of better terms, that many of these contractors be on. I mean, a lot of your contractors / investors today are less than honest when it comes to how they build today's houses. So that's why with me, whenever I buy a house, I would never buy a newer house. I'd rather buy something older, even if it needs a little bit of renovation. I'd rather take the time and pay out the money necessary to get that work done. And at the end of the day, I will have myself a nice solid home that will last for many years to come. As opposed to buying these newer houses that are garbage, and the first bad windstorm you get, they'll fall to the ground. Now, I will say there are some apartment complexes here in Camby that do appear to be relatively nice apartment complexes. Now, I will say the cost of rent for many of those apartments are going to average $1,200 a month. So if you want to live around here, you definitely need to have a little bit of money. Now here in Camby, Indiana, obviously you're just outside of Indianapolis. And you will have all your basic amenities here in Camby. I mean, anywhere from grocery shopping to restaurants to places to take your vehicle for automobile work. You will find all that and some here in Camby. So, for those of you that want to live in Camby, you're not going to have to drive into Indianapolis proper for any reason. For the most part, you won't need to, because everything you need will be here in Camby. For those of you that want to live in Camby. Now, maybe many of you might have to drive into Indianapolis proper or wherever to go to work. But for the most part, everything that you'll need will be here in Camby. And for those of you that are concerned about diversity in the community, Camby, Indiana is extremely diverse. You'll have people of all ethnicities here in Camby. Now, I told you guys that I wouldn't touch much on race and diversity and all that type of stuff, but some of you have been asking in the comment section how diverse an area is, or where in the city can you live where you'll run into the most diversity. So, given that this is a suburb of Indianapolis, and many of you that are watching might want to move out here, I'm going to let you guys know right now that Camby is very diverse. So, there will be no shortage of diversity here in Camby. And if for some reason you don't find what you need here in Camby, obviously you got Indianapolis right next door. I would say maybe about 10 to 15 minutes from here, you got Plainfield, Indiana, which is another suburban community of Indianapolis, which is very much a growing community. And I would say within a half hour of here, you also got Greenwood, Indiana, which once again is a growing suburban community of Indianapolis. Now, here are some of the older sections of Camby, and some of this may not be considered Camby city limits, but basically way back in the heydays of mid-Indiana, this is pretty much what many parts of Camby used to look like. So me driving down this road is kind of a reminder of the past for those of you that might be natives of this part of Indiana. This is pretty much what Camby used to look like way back in the day, before all kind of businesses started moving here. Now, for those of you that have some money and you want to live in Camby, and you don't necessarily want to live in any of the subdivisions, you can always come out here. Now, clearly, this is not the city limits anymore. So I'm gonna drive back into town here. This is no longer the city limits. I am now in the middle of nowhere, kind of, sort of. But these are just some of the surrounding areas of Camby, for those of you that might want to live close to Camby but don't want to live in Camby. And I would say to live around here, I would say in this housing market, to live out here, just to be on the safe side, plan to pay every bit of $300,000 for a home, that or more. Now, there is a park that's close by to here. I forgot exactly where it was at, but there is a park that's close by to here. It's very nice. It's a very nice park. Now, when me and my ex were dating, we used to go to the park regularly over the summer. I forgot what the name of the park was or exactly where it was at. Who knows, I probably did it by purpose, just to forget that I was even in that relationship. But anyways, there is a park that's close by here, which is a very nice park. For those of you that got kids, or for those of you that just want to get out and see a little bit of nature, take in a little bit of fresh air, you can go to that park. Just go on Google and type in Camby, Indiana. And type in Indiana State Park and you'll find it. In fact, I'm driving by the park right now. I gotta get out. Looks like something's up in my car here. Now this area right here, I'm on Northfield Drive, and I'm pretty sure this is Camby, Indiana. If it's not, leave a comment below so we all know where this is at. But I'm pretty sure this is Camby, Indiana that I'm driving through. I'm on Northfield Drive. So for those of you that are wanting to live, for those of you that may not have the money to buy the newer houses in the subdivisions, or for those of you that are smart and you prefer to buy something a little older house-wise, you can come around here and look at some houses. This is basically what the older part of Camby looks like. Now, I'm at the half-hour mark, so I'm going to go ahead and end this video right now. And I'm going to start another video. And I'm going to basically pick up where I left off at. So, everybody watch my next video of Camby, Indiana. And as always, thanks for watching. You know what you guys got to do. Thank you, and I appreciate it. And I will see you guys on the next video.